Hello, as promised, part number 4 or part D of my video 9. As you can see, I couldn't get the parts for the my Ryobi angle grinder, so I've bought a DeWalt, bit bigger, 125 millimeters, opposed to my 115 millimeter Ryobi. So today I was able to just go and do all those little tasks that I couldn't do last week. So we now have all this cut out, chiseled out a bit more wood there too. As you can see, there's heaps of it on the floor. So that's been done. I ground off that bolt. Same on that side. Cut that out, chiseled out the wood, ground down the bolt. Up the front here, I got those cabin mounts off on each side. So that's another job done. And then I started to notch out the chassis here for the clearance that I needed for the exhaust manifold and the exhaust flange. I still have the boxing plate there. I really can't get in there until I pull the motor out again, but I know now that I have enough clearance there. So what I'm going to try and do is, I've got a friend that's got an oxyacetylene torch. I'm going to ask him if I can borrow that. I'm going to heat this plate up, and I'm going to knock it in, and I'm going to knock it in so that it's level with this curvature here, and then I'm just going to run my MIG across the top of it there and just continue the box. So it looks neat. You know, I could probably cut it off on an angle, but if I can heat it up and bend it in and weld it back onto the chassis, then that's what I'll do. You can see there, that's the other side. You can see how close that plate comes to that piece of exhaust pipe. It's hitting it. So once that's bent back in, it'll clear it. This one was a more difficult cut than the other side, simply because of the angle or the way the grinder's set up. And I had to drop this exhaust manifold to get in there. But even with the manifold off, it still didn't allow me enough room to get into this box section here. So the engine will have to come out for me to just do what I got to do with that. Heat it up, belt it in, and then just run a bead over that section. So we got something done today at least. My next job is going to be to make some new mounts for the cabin up here at the front. As you can see, that's all the bits and pieces that I took out today. These two sections here, obviously out of the chassis. That was the two cabin mounts. This was obviously out of the back here. However that goes in, you know what I mean. These two bits, I cut them off here. That was the base of the cabin. The original cabin mount was just here somewhere. So that's all been cut back now. Nice little step, nice and neat. As you can see, it's the same on that side. And no word of a lie, it probably took me about 20 minutes to do the whole lot. So yeah, I've made a start. So my next job now is to, as I said, fabricate some new mounts for the front of this cabin. And most likely, one of these two original holes here, I can use as the new mounting point. So either go in through there with the bolt or go in through there with the bolt. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to, on the inside, reinforce this panel. It's fairly thick, but you know, as you can see, with all the years of vibration, it started to split it there, and there was a bit of a split there. I've just put a couple of really shitty beads on there, just to hold the thing together. I couldn't grind it clean because my grinder stuffed up, and I really wanted to get that crack welded up last week when the welder gave way. So all I did is I just wire brushed it, and well, as you can see, the welds are pretty shoddy, and that's what happens when you don't clean your surfaces down properly. It looks like you'd never actually picked a welder up in your life. Trust me, I can weld, although that doesn't look like it. But anyway, I'm going to have a go at doing something else now on the truck, probably fabricate those front mounts, as I said, and when I get stuck into it, I'll continue some filming. Cheers. Okay, to get my alignment on here, I picked the middle stud from that original cabin mounting bracket, and I used my square sitting on top of the chassis, and I drew a line right down the length or the height of the chassis, so that gave me a center line. Then what I did is I set a flat edge on top of the rail, because this is curved, so you can end up losing a couple of mil if you're not careful. So I set that on there, and then from the straight edge I measured down with another ruler to the 65mm point, and I scribed it. I didn't use a felt tip marker or Sharpie. I used the proper scriber that's in the end of this square, because that gives me a nice thin line, and I scribed that, and then what I was able to do was line those center holes up in the bracket, line them up with the line that I'd marked down the side of the chassis, and I was able to line the top of the bracket up with that scribed mark, and that is exactly where I need it. 65mm from that ruler to the top there. So yeah, make sure you use a straight edge when you're measuring down off the side of a chassis, because you will lose a little bit in that curve, that radius there, if you're trying to do it by eye. But the straight edge will always give you the right height, the right measurement. Okay, again I'm recycling some scrap. These pieces that I took out of there, all I've done is flip them over the other way, and I'm going to weld those in there, and that gives my cabin a mounting base. I'll have to bridge something between here and here, but that's nothing. You know, I won't even need to worry about creating some new mounts on the outside here, because all I'll do is go straight in through the frame. You know, you're talking about, you know, maybe an inch and a half difference, 2 inches from this original mounting point to where I actually want to put the new hole. So, you know, it's not going to make a great deal of difference. So yeah, reusing my scrap. To weld or to bolt? That is the question. I figure I'm going to bolt it in. You know, it wasn't welded originally, it was riveted. You know, if I weld it in and for some reason I need to make an adjustment, it's just going to be a pain in the ass to grind all those welds off and then have to, you know, smooth the chassis up again and then weld it back in. So what I'll do is I'll just put a couple of spots there on the side just to hold it in place. I'm not going to rely totally on that magnet. And yeah, I'll just drill two nice big holes through the rail and use a couple of bolts with nylock nuts, and that should be ample. Got both of those tacked in now. I'll just make up some small filler panels for the sides here and spot them in as well. I don't want to fully weld them in yet because I've got to flip the cabin back over and I want to see how they're sitting in relation to the way they sit on the chassis. You know, I don't want the cabin just sitting on this front edge here and nothing touching the chassis from, say, you know, like halfway point back. There's no real way of knowing the angle because it originally sat on this wood. The metal brace was just reinforcement, but the wood was actually what was sitting on the chassis. So with the wood missing, it's hard to tell, you know, if there was a slight angle in it or whether it was, you know, level, flat. But by looking at this, what's left here, this is probably the best section of the lot. That is pretty straight, and I've welded that or tacked that in straight. So I'm hoping that you know, I don't need to tilt that plate forward at all or have to tilt it back. Hopefully my job will have been made easy. Okay, again I've got a little bit of scrap left over. This was from the top of that radiator support brace that I cut down. So I'm just going to use that to box these in. I'll cut them down and neaten them up a little bit, and I'll do that on both sides. And that'll give me a nice solid platform for the cabin to sit on the chassis. As I was saying in some previous videos, you know, don't ever throw your scrap out. You know, whatever you take off the truck, keep until your project's finished. These parts were off the front of the chassis rail. That one would have been off the side. Well, guess what? I've got some mounting brackets there for the cabin. I've just got to grind the heads off those two rivets, knock them out, and there's me mounting plates, mounting brackets for either side. So yeah, keep your scrap, don't throw it out. Okay, again, the scraps come in really handy. These are the pieces that I cut off here. It's these are the parts that used to originally sit on the chassis here. So as I was saying a bit earlier, I'm going to reinforce this area here because this is tending to split. So I'm just going to use a piece of this. It's already got the hole pre-drilled, so I'll just cut that out and shape it to fit inside here. There's sort of no easy way to show you at the moment because it's got to be cut, but I think you'll get the drift. So yeah, cut that down and just weld it in over that. Already got the pre-drilled hole. Very minimal work again. come up with one better than just welding a plate in. Decided to keep most of it. I just had to lop the end off it, but now I can put, whoops, sorry about the camera work there, I can put that back in as if it was originally made that way. I've got that edge. Got to get this camera right. I've still got that edge there, and that's going to give me a lot more strength throughout this whole area, and it's going to look finished as well. So I've just got to take a little bit off the corner here, because when the floor pan goes in, it's going to interfere. I'm going to hold this camera and do it at the same time. It's going to interfere just here, just across there. So I've got to whip a little bit off it. Okay, that should be ground down enough now to be able to just punch that out. You can see there, you just see the diameter of the rivet that went in. This one, pretty much the same, but I cut into that with the grinder, so it's not as clear to see. But yeah, that should punch straight out. Well, there we go. That piece is in now, as you can see a little bit better now. I cut that across there to follow the floor recess, so it's not interfering with anything. It's going to give me reinforcement here. I stitch weld that along there. Also I'll weld that inside there as well to stiffen up that whole floor area. But unfortunately here I've missed the hole. You know, if I wanted to use the hole, I wouldn't be able to retain any of this, but I'd rather retain that for strength and just drill a new hole out in here. The original hole in that plate I just put in, I don't know whether you can see it, but it just overlaps this one by half, so that doesn't even match up with that one. So yeah, I've got no choice. I've got to drill another hole here, but I'm happy. I've reinforced the floor. You know, when I weld it in, I can actually, through this big hole too, I can weld in through here and up the top here a little bit, so I can put welds in from underneath as well as from on top. And yeah, it'll give me a little bit of strength back in this part. There you go. All I did was hit this first one, 2 blows, and the whole thing came out. So I just got to clean that up now, and ooh, it's a bit warm. And there's my bracket. I've cut those little side pieces and those little fillers to go in, so that'll look pretty good when it's all welded in. Yeah, it'll clean up nicely. Okay, just to make it easier for me to knock these through, rather than have to knock it through the whole length of the rivet, I've just ground the tops off those again, and yeah, I'll just punch those through and that's it. Okay, another job that I'm going to do is I originally had to cut these sections off the chassis here to be able to drop the guards down, and then those new cabin mounting brackets, they came out of here. And this is also going to serve another purpose. Might be able to see there, I've marked that out. And what's going to happen is when I cut, I always do that, I move the camera with my finger. When I cut all of this excess off, I'm going to be left with a nice boxing piece to weld in there. So this one offcut has served two purposes. Okay, got my front mounting brackets completed. Simple as that. No bending, no drilling, nothing. So keep your scrap.